We decided we could only do this together, Danny. You've learned so much already about Danny Land, the worldwide Republic of Danny. So what can we still add as German ambassadors of that free country? Donata and I, we know this man that we celebrate today for 12 years only. I say only because we wish we had met you earlier, Danny and Chava, had known your friendly voice, your mischievous smile, and your adventurously open spirit earlier.
And we would have learned Yiddish much earlier. This super intelligent and wonderful language, spending time with you, Danny, is not herausgeworfenes Geld. And mit 3 Töchter hast du kein Gelächter.
I think they have a lot of laughs. Your Yiddish lesson taught me that I was a nudnik and that you were a shaygitz, but maybe shaygitz, but maybe it was the other way around. I don't know.
It's okay, you can continue talking.
Well,
Okay.
we don't want to show anything. We're just talking.
No, just it's
Do you have a picture of Daniel?
uh,
Okay, good, that's good.
just don't touch the screen. It's the screen.
Okay. Our lives are so much richer since we know you, Danny.
True.
So between Wim and myself, we have a new Zeitrechnung. It is BD and AD. Before Danny and after Danny.
And we tell you, AD is much more exciting. One of the first images of AD that comes to my mind has been talked about before by the wonderful lawyer. It is 2 old olive trees just in front of me, not in a landscape, but in a museum. One is standing on solid ground, the very symbol of earth, of health, of wisdom, of solidity and reliability. The other tree is hanging upside down from the ceiling, so we can almost touch its branches while its roots are up in the air. Although it's the same kind of tree, it symbolizes the very opposite of its counterpart on the ground. This hanging olive tree is desperately lost, doomed, perverted, turned into its opposite, while the other one emanates life itself. The hanging tree speaks of disruption, uprootedness, homelessness, isolation, pain, and death. As I stare at the tragedy of these 2 trees and all the thoughts that unravel in my mind, I slowly walk towards the little sign that you've placed on the ground, Danny, and I read it. It's the title of the piece. It says, "Good and Bad Governance." I'm shocked by the sudden realization. Yes, that perversion is what government can do to us. That's what politics can do, that are no longer at the service of mankind, but that have other priorities like profit or power. For me, this experience, these 2 trees are you in a nutshell, Danny. A love for our planet and its people, for life and prosperity and beauty, and a keen awareness how endangered all of this can be, how much it therefore needs to be protected. You managed to make these ideas appear to us in the most splendid simplicity. And I'm happy that the word came up a few times today. Nothing is more complicated and complex than simplicity to make ideas lose all their ideology and become sheer clarity, pure and obvious manifestations of truth. That is your genius, Danny, your gift, to show us things we think we know in a way that we understand them from scratch. Your art is like a knife that cuts the world open to reveal its true beauty and to show us what our part and our responsibility is in there.
Yes. And for me, the first thing, AD.
After Danny, the new times.
Is a bright smile, 2 sparkling eyes, a bundle of beautiful energy bursting with life, tears of laughter, joyful foolishness, readiness to do something forbidden, like a child, a real boy, still a man, full of experienced wisdom and so gescheit. You are so lucky to have Hava as your guardian angel. In earthly language, as we learned today, escort girl. What would you do without her?
No.
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 He wouldn't.
No.
And then I remember when you showed us around in the huge retrospective in the museum in the Martin-Gropius-Bau in Berlin. I felt like Alice in Wonderland between all your sculptures and works, until I was confronted with my favorite, really favorite sculpture of all times. A huge cone full of sand hanging from the ceiling that was very slowly losing its volume through the tiniest hole through which the thinnest thread of sand is falling down onto the growing pile of sand on the floor. You could call this installation a giant sand clock if it wasn't so much more revealing and somehow physically terrifying. I cried instantly. I had never seen life, time, displayed so direct, so simple, so tender, so true, so merciless, and at the same time, so very beautiful. I saw my lifespan passing, realizing the thin, steady thread of sand represented the present tense.
And the cone of sand on the floor was the past. And the sand left over above was the future. And it was running out. And still today for me, that's such a powerful image. Also, let's say for our climate issue today. Right now, our future is running out in front of our eyes. Now, we both talked about something we saw in a museum. And we all know, you've heard so much about it, your real kingdom, Danny, is the outside world. It's public spaces, cities, deserts, coasts, gardens. I've not visited all of them, but some. I try to be brief, because you've heard so much already about all of them. I'll never forget my visit to Beersheba to see the huge monument you created in the Negev desert. What an unknown landscape you open up to me. What a whole different planet of forms, shapes, and geometries, creating something like a De Chirico fortress on this hill in the desert, the wind howling its strange melody in the giant pipe in the central tower. This all evoked land art or Richard Serra's strange giant metal works, but this was a different story. The names on the walls told of the fighting and dying that had taken place here, and that village of cement structures was a silent reminder of the stark presence of war and violence in our times. But it also was the opposite. It was a monument to the human mind, to imagination, and to perception. Your grandson Itamar, who came with Tamar and me, accepted the place instantly as a giant playground. He was a living proof of the life that was taking place there. Closer by where we live, in our own city of Berlin, we have 2 of your memorial sites in walking distance, and we sometimes visit them and salute them from you, because you don't come often enough to take care of them. Like I always take the leaves out of the lake, out of the water, because I know you don't like the leaves in it. You only want the flower in the middle. We saw one of the 2 sites you built and dedicated to the Grundgesetz, which is our constitution, a very sober experience that places the words and the law that protect our human rights as citizens into its center. You just heard about it. And very close to that is in the immediate neighborhood of the Brandenburg Gate and the Reichstag, you created a calm and serene and emotionally charged oasis in the middle of the city, honoring the 500,000 Sinti and Roma victims of Nazi persecution. You saw it. It's a perfect round water space surface that reflects the sky and features one fresh flower in the center. This is the quietest place in the city. I don't know what you did, Danny. Around is the loudest. And around in that little space, it's always quiet. I could talk about the Way of Human Rights in Nuremberg, or your poetic Ma'alot installation between the Cathedral of Cologne and the Rhine River, both also in my country. I feel strangely at home in these cities because you are present. We already heard a lot about the monument in Port Boo, passages designed and built to the memory of Walter Benjamin, who had died somewhere near there. Nobody knows exactly where, trying to cross the Pyrenees in order to escape Nazi prosecution. I cried as well when I sat there, Danny. And I remembered that Walter Benjamin carried a drawing with him by Paul Klee. It was called The Angel of History. And that drawing disappeared with him. And I felt the spirit of this angel present in your place. Arriving by plane in Paris, which happens to me quite often, I always hope that if we land in Orly, that the plane takes the eastern route, so from the window I could look down at the Grand Axe, and I think it's one of the few pieces of art that you can see from space. It's not just the Chinese wall, it's also your Grand Axe. Your art, Danny, is strictly unique. It's sculptural and painterly and architectural and conceptual and poetic in its language, in its use of language, and driven by morality and a great humanity. But it also has an aspect that is totally elementary or almost basic, like a farmer's sense for his land or a gardener's sense for his plants. That's not quite what I want to say. I mean this knowledge and connection that you have to places. Let's just call them simply places, like the professor in the very beginning. It's like an ancient sense that we are all about to lose because we depend too much on navigation systems, on Google and Wikipedia, instead on that human sense we all carry, which is our sense of place. But you carry it more than any of us. You must all know what a horse whisperer is, right? That is a person who can talk to horses and who can understand horses. You, Danny, are a place whisperer. You understand places, you can listen to them and hear what they have to say. You have an ear and an eye for them. You know what is good for them and what makes them good for us. Like right here in Tel-Aviv, on the culture, on the square of culture, I think they call it, where you turn a beautiful parking lot into a place of joy and encounter. Encounter with the elements, right in the middle on the city. You have elevated that sycamore tree so as if it was on a pedestal. And last night, when we ate there, I saw that tree in the rain, and there was a young man circling that tree over and over again.
He filmed it.
And I filmed it. Of course, that's my job. And he kept circling it like it was an altar or a holy shrine. You can bring out the best in places, Danny. That's interesting. I'm almost done. So you can bring out the best in places, Daniel, so they can reveal how sacred they are. And you bring out the best in us by connecting or reconnecting us to the earth, as well as to our highest ideas and ambitions, and to our history. Danny.
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 Danny, deep down, we both know where you get your wisdom from. Even if you explained to me once why you so consciously cut the L from the Daniel and modestly call yourself Danny, in our book, you still have the angel in you. And if you like, you
if you
still
like it or not.
Yeah, but if you like it better, you are funniel.
Bleib uns gesund und stark.